home advantage. A theory as old as sport itself. But everyone wants to beat you in your own house. One out. Welcome to Sydney, and welcome to the show.
Stand by. 0, go, go, go. 1, lock. Go wing. Slowly coming away. 2. Here we go. Hey, my wheel. You guys all right? Very well sound, everyone.
Welcome to the glorious Sydney Harbour for the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney, the perfect setting for the 9th event of SailGP Season 3. The weather is promising with classic sea breezes forecast to guarantee fast times in the 3 races today and 3 more tomorrow. Hometown heroes Australia lead the championship into the weekend, but at least 4 of their teams have them firmly in their sights. Alongside Stevie Morrison, Emily Nagel, and Lisa Darmanin, I'm Todd Harris, and we've already seen action in the warm-ups in this beautiful harbour.
Other teams have been jolted back into life at the high speed. Hans Henken here, well, knocked over there. He cut his top lip, some stitches, but he's back and ready to go. You can really see that the F50s have been biting back. The US suffering another injury for Erica Reinecke. Unfortunately, breaking her leg.
Guys, I just got an injury.
Okay, Erica's injured, that's...
Yeah, there you go, injured and out for the event, unfortunately. Means Australian Lucy Copeland will be replacing her as strategist.
Hold on.
The Swiss too. They've been finding the limits. Jason Saunders a little bruised, but he's ready to go after a good wash. Busy day for the medics, no doubt.
Are you okay? Are you okay? We need, I think, the medic boat.
Yeah, tough day out there. Crews have been learning fast out on the water. But well, some teams, they've arrived ready to race. Series leaders and hometown heroes have already got the gloves off, sharing punches with their closest rivals, the Kiwis. Seems pretty clear that these two have their eyes on each other. Crunch time's coming, and we're going to see some great action here today.
So here's how the championship stands as Australia continues to hold their lead with trans-Tasman rivals New Zealand well within striking distance. Emirates GBR moves up into 3rd place thanks to the slip by France with their poor 8th place finish in Singapore. The British have always done well in Sydney, but are still looking for that first event win of Season 3. Denmark stays in the hunt in 5th, but then it's the rest. Canada, the USA, Spain, and Switzerland surely out of the running here in Season number 3. All 9 teams will be under the starters' orders in today's 3 fleet races, although that looked unlikely as the last event wrapped up in Singapore. Immediately after winning that event's final, New Zealand was struck by lightning and was promptly put out of action with extensive damage, particularly to the electronic and hydraulic systems. Fortunately, a new boat had recently been completed at SailGP Technologies in Auckland, and with some more swapping within the fleet, we are happy to report that we are at full strength for the 9th event of Season 3 of SailGP. It was after the Singapore final when New Zealand's boat was struck by lightning, causing extensive damage, but fortunately no serious injuries to the scratch crew on board. Onshore, the damage was obvious, with all the sophisticated electronics and hydraulic systems completely ruined. The hope is to have the boat repaired by SailGP Technologies in time for Christchurch next month. This week, the New Zealand team takes over the boat which has been sailing as Canada, and before that, Japan. Having identical one-design boats makes this straightforward for Peter Burling's Kiwis, looking for their 4th event win to close that 9-point gap to Australia. Sailing the brand new and very shiny 10th F50 this week is Canada, and Phil Robertson's team will be hoping it helps them in their struggle to keep their season alive. New in Sydney is the British boat, swapping blue for red with new sponsor Emirates Airlines. The airline has been a supporter of leading-edge sailboat racing since 2004 and now puts not just its commercial support behind Ben Ainsley's team, but also supports their sustainability ambitions. Now known as the Emirates Great Britain SailGP team, this 3-year deal is the team's first ever title sponsor. While they've moved up to 3rd place overall, they are still looking for that all-important event win. Ideal conditions on Sydney Harbour today, not just for the teams, but for the spectators on and off the water, as well as the front runners. There will be plenty of attention on Spain today after the news broke this week that there had been a major change in the lineup. Driver Jordi Chamar has been paid the price for the poor season. He lost his place on the boat with former wing trimmer Diego Botín promoted to the driving position. So Sydney's a big moment for not only Spain's sailing program, but Diego gets thrown into the deep end of SailGP, and the other teams will give them no free pass. With 3 events left to go in Season 3, teams are taking the opportunity with crew changes to improve for the remaining races. The Spanish have made a bold call on moving Diego Botín from flight controller to driver for this young Spanish team, meaning Jordi Chamar is no longer with the squad. Diego is a European champion and will use the remainder of Season 3 to get his team fighting for the podium in Season 4.
It's a huge personal growth opportunity for me, but the most important thing here is the team. Obviously, we need to put the correct stones on the way, and that's the goal for the team for the next 3 events to hit the ground running in Season 4.
Switzerland hire Australian legend, double Olympic medalist, and 5-time world champion Will Ryan to their team as coach to help them make performance gains over the rest of the season. Switzerland goes into the record book as they pick up their first win in SailGP, and it comes in Singapore. It's bad luck for the United States SailGP team as Hans Henken returns as flight controller with a baptism of fire after cutting his face in practice. Strategist Erica Reinecke too fell victim to a brutal Sydney Harbour with a nasty leg break. Australia's Lucy Copeland steps in as her replacement. And we are getting closer to racing here. Remember, 3 races today, less than 5 minutes away here at the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney. Right now we check in with the 4th member of our broadcast team down on the water. Here's Olympic silver medalist Lisa Darmanin.
It's a splendid day to be on the harbour. We have a strong, gusty sea breeze from the north-northeast. Winds are averaging 35 kilometres per hour, gusting to 42 kilometres per hour. The teams have already been hitting over 90 kilometres per hour of boat speed in their warm-up laps. The tight quarters of this racetrack mean plenty of high-pressure manoeuvres as the teams have to bounce off an island and headlands. It's super gusty out here, so plenty of opportunities for overtaking. There's also a bit of an acceleration of wind around Genesis Island, Shark Island, so the teams may favour a fan flyby to find more breeze and more speed. It's a little bit lighter where the F-50s will be preparing to start, but as soon as they get to Mark 1, it will be all on. There are some storms over the city that the sailors will have to keep their eyes on, as I expect they will affect the wind a little bit later on. So let's take a closer look at the course for today.
Hitting the line fast is the key to a good start. It's windy out on the harbour today, so it's going to be high-speed action towards Mark 1. Here we see the first split in the fleet as they can sail off in different directions, trying to find the quickest time to Gate 2. At the gate, a big choice to make, as they can turn left or right. Remember that sailboats only sail fast when they're sailing at an angle to the wind, so we'll see them zigzag their way around the course. At every gate, there's an opportunity to attack or defend. For the leading boats, they're looking to select the best side of the course with the most favourable wind. The turbulent wind left by them means for the boats behind, this is a much harder choice. It's windy out here on the harbour, lots of gusts, lots of wind shifts, so manoeuvring's going to be really key for the crews out there on the water today. Accuracy will be the key, the devil will be in the detail, but when they sprint to the finish, it's going to be spectacular in front of the fans.
And pleased to announce this week that Swiss watchmaker Rolex has extended its agreement with SailGP in a groundbreaking partnership as the global presenting partner and exclusive official timepiece of the championship for a further 10 years, taking them all the way to the end of Season 13.
Well, now seems a great time to get down on the water, talk to the hometown heroes, those local favourites, and we've got Tom Slingsby on the water with us. Tom, it looks pretty perfect. Sydney delivering some great race conditions today?
Yeah, it's beautiful out here. It's windy, very windy out here, but yeah, it's going to be exciting. Good racing for the spectators.
Good racing, and obviously maybe that little bit of added pressure with it being a home event, but great event for you in Singapore without Kyle Langford, and you must have one eye on that final in San Francisco now.
For sure, yeah, we're feeling more confident in the overall season points, and we feel like we're almost there, but we're not there yet. We need a good result here, so good result here, our home event, that's pretty important to us, and then if we can do that, then we'll be feeling pretty confident that we can start concentrating on San Francisco and that $1 million race.
Well, Tom, good luck out there on the water. Thanks very much, and we look forward to seeing you in action.
So a good shot of the course as everyone gets themselves into position. There you see Genesis Island, also known as Shark Island. And everyone, wow, Stevie, this is going to be hectic as they get off the line with this wind that Tom talked about.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first time we've seen any wind for a little while, and it's showed in practice it was pretty hairy. It's windier again today. You can see how gusty it is. I think this is quite a good camera angle, to be perfectly honest. You see the darker patches of water. They're the big gusts of wind that the crews are looking for, but it's a changing environment. It's very dynamic, so we do need to be quite, we do need to be sharp. The crews need to have their head out of the boat, and there could be plenty of action.
So race management delivering the message that the race has been delayed by 4 minutes, and we will get you the full information as it becomes further available. And what we're hearing now is that the pause and the delay in the race is to allow Australia, who had some mechanical issues, to get some full practice time in. So, Emily, that changes things just a little bit. Everyone now is going to go out there, stretch their legs a little bit longer, and then get back into the start box.
Yeah, as Lisa mentioned, we've already seen speeds today in excess of 90 kilometers an hour. In Saint-Tropez, we did see that new top speed be set at 100, but I think today there's potential for that to be broken. We've got breeze, but we also have flat water, which makes the foiling conditions perfect.
Pretty good shot here, Todd. That's the dagger board they're working on there. We can see the crew, a couple of sailors. That's Ed Powis. He was the wing trimmer in Singapore, and now it looks like he's moved on to boat building duties. But I think, it just shows it is windier. They can get top speeds, but it's the first time the boats have been put under real load. Yep. They've had a big old journey around the planet to get here to Sydney, and just shows how kind of on the edge these boats are technology-wise to keep them running. It's a full job.
And the word we're hearing is the boat is repaired, Stevie, but Australia has asked for that extra time to get out of the water and put it through its paces.
Yeah, I think they've been out on the water for about an hour now, but they've had pretty much zero practice. So it's just to get the crew warmed up, to make sure the boat is working. Obviously, if they're coming in at full speed, Jason Waterhouse, flight controller on board the boat, he's flying the boat, and if something doesn't quite work properly in these kind of conditions, you could leap out the water. And with 9 F-50s going to be coming into gate 2 fast, and if they're coming into gate 2 fast and out of control, we got a problem.
And it's worth noting, if you're new to SailGP, they are the 2-time reigning and defending champions, Emily. They are absolutely stacked with talent on that boat.
They definitely are, and they're coming into this event as the hometown heroes, but we have seen them beaten on home waters before, so they won't be too confident out there.
How do you like the Americans' chances? Remember last year they came into this event looking for a big win. They finished in 2nd place. Australia won this event last year. How do you like the Americans with the changes they've had to make?
Honestly, they haven't been the most consistent of teams. We've seen some real big glory moments from them, winning events, but then also having some complete shockers as well. So they're going to be coming out fighting. They really need to step it up if they want any chance of making that final in San Fran.
Jimmy Spithill, a local to this area, sailing for USA SailGP as everyone continues to stretch their legs a little bit as that would be, and we are just now hearing under 90 seconds to go, and unfortunately Australia will not be able to go in race number 1. So Stevie, that is huge news as their lead is just 9 over New Zealand, who will be up and sailing.
Well, it looks like they're going to try. They might be late on parade. It looks like potentially down here. That was Kinley Fowler, got the screwdriver out. Not ideal as we see the crews now setting up. That's Shark Island. It's branded Genesis Island to the right of our screen there. That's where all the fans are. And I think that's the end of the line. To see the start line here, the right-hand end on our screen. I think that's where the crew's going to want to be. They've got a minute to get there. Of course, it's a rolling start. Time and distance is absolutely crucial, and right now the positioning is everything. Yesterday in practice, we saw being on the foils from a long way out was fairly key. I like how the New Zealand boat's setting up, expect an aggressive move down the line from them. But New Zealand, Australia, Denmark, they're going to have a run up, and it's Emirates GBR. They're leading the fleet back. Ainsley likes to have a bit of control.
30 seconds to go before the start of race number 1. 3 races today, 3 more tomorrow. You've got to be in the top 3 to get into that final. And look at Australia in the back coming in.
They're coming in late. They're down there at that favoured end of the line. Aggressive move from New Zealand here. He's going to want to get across the front of the Danes. I think it's, oh my word, great move by New Zealand. He now has control, but he's a little early. It's Emirates GBR and Australia well positioned. Spithill can't find a gap. All about the timing. Watch for the line to turn. White.
Oh, kinds of penalties.
Over the line early, New Zealand.
OCS penalty, New Zealand. Over the line early. No delayed starters.
Well, we thought they weren't going to race. It's going to be Australia leading at Mark 1. Perfect timing. Natural sense of drama for Australia and Tom Slingsby. He's going to lead at Mark 1 with the French and GBR, Emirates GBR, chasing them down.
Slingsby loving a bit of drama, going Hollywood. First we were hearing they wouldn't be on the line, they wouldn't be able to race, and here he is getting the whole shot in race number 1.
Here we go. We see gate 2 looming pretty quickly in the background, Todd. New Zealand, their penalty is to go to the back of the fleet, so they've got a big job ahead of them here. And there, that yellow line, that's our lay line. Slingsby looks to turn there. He's well set up for gate 2, and this is where the crews are going to be learning the course. They can turn left or right through that gate. Yesterday, they liked the idea of turning left. Slingsby's perfectly lined up for that. Who's going to make the right choice here? Who's going to find the most wind after gate 2?
Gate number 2, here we go. The Australians in the lead, and then 3 more boats coming into view. Tight quarters on that left-hand side.
Really tight. Look at the Swiss. They've tried to manoeuvre so late. They put the bow in the water. Wow, close moment. The Canada must keep clear. Drama at the bottom gate there. Emirates GBR slides through. They all avoid each other just, but Switzerland, wow, so close to a capsize. Diego Botín, the Spanish new driver. He's not scared of getting in on the action. Dives through 4th at gate 2, and New Zealand, they're back in the pack. Wow, drama there as Australia, well, they're leading the fleet of the way, and great shot here. We see the dark patches of water showing the gusts, the different wind speeds on the water. It's all happening out there, and it's all now about getting fast.
And a tough break for the Americans. Jimmy Spithill had his eyes on that left-hand side and got stuffed. Let's go on board Switzerland.
Here we go, board goes down. It's a late turn. It's a fast turn by Seb Schneider on the wheel there, and we can see he just overturns left-hand side. The rudder comes out the water. The boat overheels. They just manoeuvred too late. It's a late decision. All got a bit rushed and all got very, very messy.
So back to racing here. Race number 1. It is still Australia out in front. France sitting in 2nd. Emirates GBR in 3rd as they approach the next gate.
Halfway up the leg here, Todd, and the Australian boat's in space, clearly working pretty well at this point. I suppose the question is
the umpires. Penalty Canada, relative Switzerland. Port tack boat not keeping clear.
Pretty basic rule infringement there for the Canadians. Tight when you're back in the pack. I think the difference between being out front, where Australia is they've got space as we see a tight cross. Emirates GBR has the right of way. Wow, last minute dive. It's very messy out there on board these boats. The French, look at that. They're flying high. They're heeling over. Wow, it's a big, again, you could see that coming, Todd. The tricky stuff in this breeze is see things early, try and keep it simple. Easier said than done. A lot easier when you're at the front of the fleet than at the back.
Halfway point of race number 1. It's Australia out in front, Great Britain, France, and the USA has now moved up to 4th place. Canada sits in 5th. Emily?
We've got wind speeds here of 35 kilometres an hour, and that makes the upwind speed targets between 55 and 60 kilometres an hour. So when they are having these tight crosses, they're massive closing speeds. So pretty full on for the French there, having to duck at that pace.
And New Zealand not foiling.
Yeah, it looks like there's something not quite working well with the boat. They're in a borrowed boat here, Todd. This was not their boat after that incident in Singapore, and well, possibly good news for Australia. That's their closest rival, New Zealand, out the back, and now perfectly lined up along the ley line, perfectly lined up for gate 3. Hey, it's almost a Chicago. So what that means is one of their set play manoeuvres. They try and simplify a complicated manoeuvre with a different name. They're going to turn the boat away from the wind and set up for an early turn very quickly. You'll expect to see Carl Langford run across the boat and set up for another turn.
So just minutes before the start of race number 1, the hometown favorites, the overall leaders, and the defenders of this event say they are not able to sail. They come into the start box. Not only they get to the line, Stevie, first, but they get the lead at mark number 1. And here they are leading halfway done in race number 1. 3 races scheduled for the day. Australia, Great Britain, France, and the USA, your top 4.
Well, I guess they know the course pretty well. And someone else that knows the course well is Emirates Team GBR skipper Ben Ainsley. Won his first gold medal back at the 2000 Olympics here, you know, so that he knows the waters well. But it's tight here. Look, back with the action. The Danes, they're diving inside. They have the right of way there. As Canada, they split away. Switzerland have got themselves back in the race. So despite that drama, they've got themselves back in the action here. And of course, I think for France and Denmark and Emirates GBR, huge event here. We're 3 events away and they're really tight. Another messy manoeuvre on board Switzerland. That wing should be inverted the other way. Oh, it could get gnarly on board that.
Look at the lead. Australia way out in front.
These 3 teams really leading the way downwind. They've got 63 kilometers an hour of average speed on board the Australian boat, while Emirates GBR slightly slower, but more fly time. So they're staying up on the foils a little bit better, chasing down the Australians.
This is the umpires. Penalty Spain, relative Switzerland, not giving room in the boundary.
A windy day and a lot of action for Chief Umpire Craig Mitchell. You'd expect that as everyone's trying to keep the boat, Stevie, safe and away from everyone else. But look at this. Australia just blowing away 300 meters ahead of the rest of the fleet. Remember GBR sitting in 2nd, France in 3rd, USA in 4th.
Yeah, and we're getting towards the last upwind leg, so the things are spacing. What strikes me here, Todd, is it's windy, the boundaries are coming close, and it's how much can you be ahead of the game? How can you be proactive rather than reactive? And at the moment, a lot of these crews are just reacting to what's in front of them. Tom Slingsby, Emirates Great Britain, they're laying out a plan. They're able to keep the tempo at a more controlled level and therefore execute the maneuvers better.
Emirates GBR into 2nd place, Australia with a 300-meter lead, France in 3rd, USA in 4th, Canada top 5. And Stevie, as they take that big shot from the helicopter, you see the big clouds in the distance. You got to wonder if that's going to affect the conditions later today. No better person to tell us what we're forecasted for. Let's go down to the water and Lisa Darmanin.
Hey, team, we're retiring here.
Well, I can tell you, Todd, that cloud is definitely affecting the race course. It's a different game out here. The wind has been...
Apologies, Lisa. Just breaking news there as New Zealand has had to retire with tech issues. Peter Burley making the announcement moments ago. So now it is an 8-boat race. Leg 5 of 7 is still Australia, Great Britain, France, and USA top 4. Lisa, continue on in the weather and what we should expect for the next 2 races.
Well, I've noticed that the cloud is moving to the north of the course, so it's moving away from the course, so I'm hoping that will settle the wind. But the reason that a lot of the teams are struggling out here is A, it's different to what they practice, but B, is the difference between the lulls and the gusts are making it really hard to control the power of the F50, and that's why we're seeing touchdowns, we're seeing them fly too high, and they've really got to be proactive, like Stevie was saying.
Nice to get it. No, I get it right occasionally.
Once in a while.
Yeah, had to happen. A broke clock is right twice a day, they say. But on board the Australians here, look at that. They look good. Slingsby looks good, even though a slight grimace on board his face there.
That lead has now come down to 210 meters over Emirates Great Britain. France, USA, your top 4 still. And look at this. Those are the spectator boats out there.
Yeah, and look at the speeds, Todd. Look at the speeds. The Australian boat down at 20 kilometres now. Great Britain at 46. The Aussies, that was a bad manoeuvre.
Bad manoeuvre from them in this leg, but last leg, we're seeing that the Aussies are sailing over 300 metres less distance than those boats further back in the pack. Just showing that when you have the lead, you can really keep that average speed up and sail less distance, do what you want as you go around the course.
pressure manoeuvre now. Australia have to get this right. Ainsley's breathing down their net in Emirates GBR. We're right now, last couple of manoeuvres to the finish, Todd. This is the final gate before they head down to the mark. Australia did nail it. They should be good to bring it home in front of the fans from here.
So through the near gate for the leaders, Australia, then it's Great Britain, France, the USA. They'll head downwind, and then it's one more turn for the finish line in race number 1. Remember, 3 races today, so 2 more still to go. But I got to tell you right now, whatever that short crew did, Stevie, it's masterful, because Australia went from possibly not racing today to leading this race, and looks like they're on the way to a win in race 1.
They're going well. They were late getting the board down there, Todd. When we come back, it'll be interesting to see how they look.
Boundary penalty, Australia.
Yeah. Ooh. That's 20 metres they're going to have to lose relative, but more importantly, they're off the foils. The penalty's not going to matter. The speed they've lost, they're struggling to get the board on the left-hand side of our screen down in the last 2 manoeuvres. That was the board that had a problem in the last race.
And look how close it is now, as you talk about it, on course, Emirates GBR, and they are now stuck in the water.
They're off the foil. Someone's overboard, Todd. Someone's overboard. Oh my word, that looks like the fairing's broken. Yep. They're trying to reach through, and he's just clearly, whoa, disaster for Emirates Great Britain. What a moment there. Opens the door for the French. Quentin de la Pierre chasing down hard after the Australian crew. Slingsby won't want any more manoeuvres to do here. That board's not working possibly. Here we go, watch this. 2 more manoeuvres for Australia, 1 more manoeuvre for France. The Aussies can't get that board up. Big issues. Australia has the right of way here at the mark. Oh my word, they're having to think on their feet now, Todd. Oh my lord, the boat jumps out of the water.
And big look at the Americans on the inside.
Oh, it's a sprint now, but Australia, they're sailing with an arm tied behind their back at the moment, Todd. Unbelievable that they're managing to hang on here as France drive to the finish. Spithill drives to the finish. Who's going to get there first?
Neck and neck as they come to the finish line here in race number 1 in Sydney. And the win will go the way of the French. Quentin de la Pierre pulls a rabbit out of his hat.
Wow. Unbelievable by the French to get through there, but how the Australians have finished 3rd. Look at the French boat leaping across the finish line there. What a race. There's some serious issues on these boats right now.
There is a lot on out there today. Incredible effort by the Australian boat for finishing that with board issues. They're essentially sailing with double the lift when they've got 2 foils down, which that's a big job on for Jason Waterhouse in keeping that flight control going.
Want to report that they did fish their crew member in for Emirates GBR, so he is safe back on board. Denmark's going to come in and take a 4th. Now the drag is on, and it is going to be Canada that's going to be ahead of Emirates GBR. And Stevie, what a turn of events. Emirates GBR is going to finish in 6th place. The good news is crew members safe back on board. They've got some damage to that boat, but they were in 1st place when that incident took place.
Yeah, they were, and we can see there without the helmet, the right-hand side, that's Matt Gottrell. Big rower, Olympic gold medalist rower, and yeah, he fell through the netting. Must have been damage on board there as the Swiss come in 7th. Pretty much everyone had a big moment in that race, Todd. That was just all action, and again, it's the first time we've seen any win. New Zealand, they're back in the race. Can they get the Spanish on this blast to the finish? Every point counts. I don't think they're going to manage to get past Botin, but a result for New Zealand. A 9th is better than a retired. But they've got a lot of work to do, New Zealand, over the next few races.
Oh, take a deep breath, folks. That was just 1 race of 3 today. The appetizer, if you will, here at the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney.
It wasn't just in the race that we had the drama. There was plenty in the start. Both GBR and New Zealand were early coming into the line. You see New Zealand trying to kill time by snaking their way up towards the start, while GBR take the other option of slowing down the rest of the fleet. We see them come up towards the bottom of the line, getting USA, Canada and Denmark all bunched up near New Zealand. This allowed Australia to have a clear end of the line, hit it with speed at over 70 kilometers an hour, which is huge gains and led to their eventual brilliant race.
Well, let's take a look at the results, and what a hectic last 2 legs of race number 1 of 3 here in Sydney. France comes from behind to claim the win. The United States, which was mired in 6th place, finishes in 2nd, and Australia finishes in 3rd. Denmark, Canada, Emirates, GBR, rounding out that top 6. What a showing and what a way to start things off here in Sydney. This beautiful, iconic harbor, it is taking no prisoners today. The wind is up, they will gear up, decompress, and we'll do it all again in race 2.
At the moment, we're 19 seconds to go. I think Alfred. Oh my! No! The British crew crashed. They had no rights there. Lost control of the boat.
You tend to show me the same teams in most of the videos here in terms of crashing and collisions.
Whooshka. So this was the big collision that we were involved in. When you watch it back, of course it's frustrating. There's plenty of woulda, coulda, shoulda moments in there, but it is what it is. You try and learn from it. As I said, that was a very difficult situation where we just didn't see the boat till it was far too late.
We actually hit the French trying to get through the gap to lure to them.
Oh, that's a race ender.
The sound of this crash was unbelievable, to be honest.
This moment I actually completely understand. This was a late afternoon in Sydney and the sun was right in the position where Japan are. I remember in practice, there was one time Japan was coming up at us, a white boat, and they were right in the sun. It was very hard to see them. So I do totally understand how that happened, and now SailGP has changed the way we do things to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Man, it's tough.
But same problem is due to the blind spot in the wing.
Good watching, eh?
You're kind of wondering, like, why was this not obvious that there was a boat there? But like live in the boat, there are so many blind spots, like with the wing being there, that you really need someone looking to leeward.
So that's why the women are important as a sixth sailor.
To the line at the moment, we're 19 seconds to go. I think Outridge and oh my! No! The British crew crashed. They had no rights there. Lost control of the boat.
Go, go, go. You guys all right? Fine. Look.
Back at KPMG, Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney, day number 1, race number 1 is complete. It is France, USA, and Australia, your top 3. And then it gets a little bit crazy after that. What a showing, and the folks on Genesis Island today are getting quite a show. If you are anywhere near the Sydney area, you got to take this racing in. And if you're the hometown Team Australia, you got to welcome 8 other teams that are trying to knock you off your perch.
The science of home advantage in sport has been studied for centuries. Algorithms, percentage chances, probabilities, a lot of research, numbers, and thinking to arrive at a simple conclusion. There's nothing like racing at home. The Australia SailGP team has spent the entire season so far travelling thousands of miles across time zones to each event. And they've still been coming out on top. Now they're back on home turf. Their waters, their fans. Even Mother Nature is on their side.
And from here on out, we've got windy venues, and that's what we like.
The Australians and the Kiwis are currently sitting in first and second in the standings. And it's going to take a serious performance against the odds to knock them off. The European teams, for example, have to travel nearly 24 hours to get to Sydney, with a temperature swing of nearly 30 degrees.
We've all experienced jet lag, but it's something that we prepare for, and it's just part of the challenge.
At the highest level of performance, margins matter. Will we see a new level of dominance from home teams down under?
Well, they may have the hometown advantage, but it is a little bit different out here than the classic sea breeze. It is getting gusty, it is getting different. I think with my eyes, there's a lot of pressure on the left-hand side of the racetrack. And by left, I mean, look at those big spectator boats, the side the Harbour Bridge is on, and I think that that side will be favoured. As I was mentioning earlier, it's super gusty though, so there's plenty of opportunities to get things right and plenty to get things wrong. So it is a really tough race course out here for the sailors, and we know the Aussies, even if they were at the back foot, they wanted to show the home crowd a show, and they certainly did that in race number 1, Todd.
No question about it. Thank you very much, Lisa. Race number 1 goes the way of France, USA second, Australia third, then it's Denmark and Canada, your top 5. Race 2 coming up. If you're out on a boat anywhere near the Sydney Harbour, you are loving life right now. And as we look at the professionals getting it done, Emily, we also have the next generation of sailors also performing here in Sydney.
SailGP is helping inspire the next generation of sailors to chase their dreams on and off the water. 16 young sailors from all over Australia are facing off on the racecourse here in the heart of New South Wales. For some, this is their first time foiling, and it doesn't get better than this. Good breeze, stadium racing, surrounded by their sailing heroes. Many of them national champions, youth world medalists, all with dreams of one day taking Tom Slingsby's job.
Well, race number 1 was exciting, and Quentin Delapierre somehow found his way to the front of the pack to take the win in race 1 of the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney. What a start for the French. We saw them during practice yesterday and wondering if they'd get back to the form that had them into the top 3, now in the top 4. And Quentin Delapierre certainly answered that. Everyone looking forward to the next 2 races today here in Sydney. As we mentioned earlier, practice yesterday forced changes on board USA, losing strategist Erika Reinecke with a broken leg. She was described by driver Jimmy Spittle as a key member of their team. However, she has been replaced on the back of the boat by Australian reserve strategist Lucy Copeland, who Jimmy says has fitted in just fine.
Typical Aussie fashion, she jumped straight on the boat and just started ripping into us. I think her first line was, "I'm here to help you guys win races again." And so, yeah, so she has fit in seamlessly. Like, she's actually, her personality is a lot like Erika, you know. She loves sort of a laugh. She just fits in well. And I think it says a lot about the Women's Pathway program where, you know, you can get an athlete we've never worked with before, jump on and just seamless.
And there is the scene out on the water as the Wasps have had their opportunity. We're under 4 minutes to go before the start of race number 2. France, the winners of race number 1. USA and Australia put themselves in good positions as well, as Lisa Darman has reported down the water. Extremely gusty, and that is the understatement. You see the clouds forming on the right-hand side here at Sydney Harbour on that beautiful bridge as the Opera House now comes into view. So France making some minor repairs, debriefing on board as we go under 3.5. Stevie and Emily, got to take you back to race number 1 and what happened with Emirates GBR. They moved into the lead, and the next thing we know, guys, they are fishing someone. It looks like Matt Gottrell out of the water.
They were, and quite a scary moment on board. Now, the G2 grinder, which is Matt Gottrell's position, is facing backwards in a maneuver.
And he gets, oh, look at that.
Apologise for the language there, quite understandable. I hope you can think he's just fallen through. Scary moment on board, and you see the hobble, the safety seat. We see there the turning, the G-forces in the turn, and that's just super lightweight plastic film there. It's just a fairing, it's just for boat speed, but of course he fell on it. There's no structural support there. He's straight through it, Todd, and yes, such a scary moment. It just shows that new safety system works pretty well, but he is fine. That's the good news. He'll be sailing in the next race. Olympic gold medalist in a rowing boat. I think he'd probably like to be back in his rowing boat right now.
So we are able to report Matt Gottrell is okay. Looked scary. They come on board. They've now made the repairs, Stevie.
Yeah, well, that's actually Neil Hunter, so it looks like he's probably having time off to compose himself. They use 2 grinders. They want to keep the energy. Big physical role, especially today, and that's probably something we can underestimate is how fit and strong those grinders are. The big G1 on Great Britain is Gottrell and Hunter. They swap, and they're trying to make sure they have an efficient energy levels. They keep their energy level up, and that's what they do. They make sure they put themselves changed every race, plenty of power on board. So Neil Hunter, he's in, and a bit of time for Matt Gottrell to rest.
And we're now fortunate enough to go on board Emirates GBR and talk with Hannah Mills. And Hannah, scary situation there with Matt. What's his condition right now? What can you tell us? Trying to connect with Hannah Mills. Hannah, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, Hannah, tell us what happened with Matt and how's he doing?
Do a tack and then a bear away.
Yeah, he's okay. Obviously, pretty scary situation. He went straight over the front. Yeah, the guys did a great job getting him back on board, and luckily he seems okay.
All right, so you guys regroup. The boat's okay, Hannah? You guys are all safe. You've obviously added someone to replace Matt for the next race?
Just going to bear away in a minute.
Yeah, we've got Neil on board now, and the boat is just about okay. It's been patched up really well by the team, so we're good to go.
All right, appreciate your time, Hannah Mills. Hectic time on board's Emirates GBR. Ben Ainsley and crew, they've made the repairs, Stevie. They brought on a new crew member, and man, you don't often see Sir Ben or the Welsh Goat get rattled, but that was a scary situation.
No, I mean, there's some very experienced sailors on board that Emirates GB boat, and I think what I noticed almost most there is just in everyone's voice on board, they're just a bit heightened. You can tell the boats are kind of on edge. I mean, obviously they've had a scare on Emirates GBR, but I think all the crews, 3 minutes to go to this second race, they're just rattled by this extra wind speed, the closing speeds with the other boats, with the boundaries, with the gates, everything is happening faster, and I'm not sure if everyone's brain is working faster at the moment.
I mean, it's fair enough. They haven't seen breeze like this. They haven't really used the little wings since Saint-Tropez. You know, that's almost 6 months ago. They don't get much practice time either.
So race 2, the start has been delayed by those additional 3 minutes. The USA having their issues on board as well. And I think it goes well to Lisa Darmana's point down at water, Stevie, because what they practiced in yesterday is not what they're seeing today. So it's almost like a whole new racetrack.
No, it's a reset, and I mean, I think Emily's quite kind to them, saying it's fair enough. I mean, this is the best sailors in the world, and they're choosing to be out there in these boats. So I think, you know, you've got to step up to the challenge, and they need to accept mistakes when they make them. And I think, to be honest, the Australian crew looked pretty quality. The boat let them down in the end there, but they were a long, long way ahead. There was a lot of mistakes by a lot of the other crews that they can all improve on, and hopefully they will do that. But yeah, it's changed. It's all happening faster, but it's putting on just a great show for the fans.
Under 2 minutes to go, and the folks on shore are enjoying the party that is KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney. It is a picture-perfect day. We talked to Tom Slingsby. He said the breeze is up, the fans are out, both on shore and on the water. And I'll tell you what, not bad viewing positions to be out there.
Yeah, well, it certainly looks like the weather's a little bit warmer than it is over here in Ealing, Todd. But yeah, I mean, fantastic. What a place to watch the racing. Yep. You can get actually right on that waterfront, right on the edge of the racecourse, and on Shark Island there, Genesis Island. They're right where the start line is. I mean, It's incredible.
So here we go. We are coming up 1:15 to go before the start of race number 2. If you're just joining us, you missed a lot, and we will bring you up to speed. But France, USA, and Australia, the top 3 finishers in race number 1. Emirates GBR was in the lead until they lost a sailor, Matt Gottrell, overboard.
1 minute to go, and we saw the end of the line towards Genesis Island was the place to start. They're coming up here, the crews are lining up, and these next few seconds will be pretty definitive, in terms of being ready for the gun.
Under 40 seconds to go before the start of race number 2 here in Sydney, Australia, day 1 of the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix.
And it's early move there, New Zealand. They're making their move down towards that bottom end of the start line near Shark Island. That was the place to start last time. Kiwis have learnt from their mistake, and they're looking to find space. The Switzerland team shut them off now, as we see Emirates GBR, Denmark and Canada in the middle of the line. French and USA looking to snipe here. Can they find a gap through the fleet as Tom Slingsby winds it up at the top of the line? I think he's early. We're watching for the line to turn. White, how's your timing, Tom Slingsby? He's coming in hot here.
Dead on.
Oh! I think he was early, Todd.
This is the umpire's OCS penalty, Australia.
Oh, we're going to want to see that back. That must be microseconds in that. And it's going to be France and New Zealand towards the bottom here. Looking good. It looks like Quentin de la Pierre put his starting pants back on because he's going to lead at Mark 1. And the French, they won the first race and they're out of the blocks real quick here. That boundary's going to come quick. We see there underwater on board the Swiss boat. Canada's going to be looking to set up for a manoeuvre. It's going to be really tight here with this spectator boat on the racetrack. Wow, it's tight in there.
A lot of chaos on the course here in race number 2, and it looks to be France with the lead. Spain up playing with the big boys as well, and Canada in the top 3. So it's France, Spain, Canada, your top 3. New Zealand now sitting in 5th, 1 spot behind the Americans who hold down 4th.
Yeah, New Zealand seem to be struggling with this boat. It's not their boat, of course, after that lightning strike in Singapore. As France, look, they're coming in there at 85 kilometers an hour. The Spanish boat, Botin, what an effort by this young Spanish crew. It's his second day at the wheel of an F50. Don't forget that, Todd. This is unbelievable from him. He's going to split the course with the Canadians. Wow, getting loose there. Fly too high. He put it at a dangerous angle and they're too much power, but they've got control again. And the Spanish, well, it's a great start by Diego, but they need to get the boat going faster.
Emirates GBR back up and running. There's Denmark, Nikolai Sehested. The Australians have moved up a position. Remember, they had a penalty early going over the line just by a fraction. So it's France, Canada, USA, Spain now as they go on to leg number 3.
Great camera angle here, Todd. Look at those dark patches on the water. That's what these crews are trying to find. If they can put themselves in one of those big gusts, you're going to be going faster. But as Leeson said, you've got to react to it and set the boat up properly to deal with it.
We're seeing a lot of breeze coming down the course. On that far side, on the right-hand side of the course, we saw the French with over 40 kilometers an hour of breeze. A little less on the left-hand side. We have seen a few teams touch down in maneuvers in these lulls and gusts and losing control.
Oof. French are sailing the boat well here, Todd. Look at that lovely smooth turn there. Kept the boat up above the water, forward all the way through, and they did it right in that dark patch of wind. So they're staying in the gust. The key is, can you link the gusts together? It's all very well getting a gust, but if you then fall straight out of it, that's no good at all. And we can see the French, wow, look, they're sailing nearly straight up the ladder line here. Not only have they got a gust, they've got a great angle in the wind. And New Zealand, look at them, they're coming back through the fleet fast. Burling's reading the wind well, and they've got the New Zealand boat up and going.
Tight cross moments ago between the USA and Canada. New Zealand, Stevie, as you put it, they are back in the mix in 4th. They're Spain as they were running in the top 3. Now they're back to 5th. But everyone now is chasing France as they have found their sea legs after winning race number 1 and their lead almost 200 meters over the Americans who now sit in 2nd.
Yeah, and the wind's really rotated to the left here. So we can see that USA, they have the right of way. Canada must keep clear. This is a difficult maneuver for Phil Roberts. Beautifully executed there. He really did that well. Super smooth on board, but it's opened the door for New Zealand. That's going to close the gap. But yeah, we can see the wind. The crews are nearly sailing straight up the ladder lines here. We can see the direction, of course, indicated on those ladder lines. And that means that next leg, there's going to be minimum manoeuvres in it. Could be good news here for the USA. They're going to be on a good mark angle into gate 3, potentially 1 turn down to the next gate.
So France is having a great race. Stock up. Canada's come back. The Americans in the top 4, as are the Kiwis. What is going on with Spain, Denmark, Emirates, Great Britain, and of course Switzerland having problems? Let's go down on the water for a report, and Lisa Darmanin.
Well, this left turn at the gate here is super critical because that's where the wind is. But the issue we have is we have a beautiful line of spectator boats, great for the spectators, very difficult for the sailors. I think this left turn is certainly the priority, so it'll be interesting to see which teams prioritise left turn here.
It's interesting that Lisa says that, Todd, because the left turn is going to put you into the boundary pretty quick, and I think you might have to do 2 manoeuvres downwind going that way. I kind of liked where Jimmy Spithill went there. He's potentially going to only need to do 1 turn, so it'll be interesting how this one works out down this next leg.
So the USA and Spain up for the right-hand side, and look at the speed on board New Zealand, approaching 90 kilometers an hour. And look at the wind. We're pushing almost 50.
It's windy out there, Todd. Yeah, we can see the French have done okay. They're having to set up to turn already.
Really impressive performance downwind here by the USA team. 97% fly time, that's the highest on the course, averaging about 65 kilometers an hour, as are the French. Both teams really pushing it here, head to head.
It's
only meters apart.
Jimmy Spithill hitting the turbo.
Yeah, it was a little gain for Jimmy, but now they're locked in. French have control of this situation. They have the right of way, but the US are going faster. Jimmy not afraid to push it. Who's about to go over the top here? It's about to be controlled to the USA, and the French have to set up to turn again. I like that right turn at the top from Jimmy. He's been able to do a lot less now. Jimmy must keep clear here on board the USA. Has to keep clear. Expect a protest from De La Pierre. Jimmy matching his manoeuvre. Paul Campbell-James telling him when the board went down. USA react immediately. There's the yellow ley line. That should mean the French are well set for the next gate. Contan aggressive there, sailing Jimmy off the course. Well, the match race master, the old master Spithill, given a bit of a lesson from De La Pierre. Aggressive from the young French driver.
And remember, these are the top 2 finishers from race number 1. France and the USA went 1 and 2. They sit 1 and 2 here in race number 2.
They're also 2 of the teams that performed the best the last windy racing back in Saint-Tropez. So I think this could be a strength of these teams, this big breeze, little wing setup.
Well, Canada, too many manoeuvres as they come in at the bottom here. And the Spanish in third. What a performance from this Spanish crew as we see Peter Burling on board New Zealand slingshotting around the outside. Well, they need a result. But yeah, I think we should not forget about the fact getting quite close to the end of the season. USA have not had a good season. They probably have to win this event to have any hope of making the final.
The Americans currently sitting 7th overall, 25 points back of Australia, the overall leaders. And they are way back, 54 points to 43, so 11 points back of that 3rd position. Remember, the top 3 teams will sail in that $1 million race in San Francisco, which comes up May 6th and 7th. So leg 5 of 7, there you see the wind at the top, holding right around 40 kilometers an hour. It's France in the lead, 52 meters clear of the USA, New Zealand in 3rd, then it's Spain and Canada, your top 5.
And it's tight here, because the next maneuver is going to be on the French. They're going to want to turn the boat next, but when they do, unless they execute a perfect maneuver, Jimmy Spithill's USA will have the right of way. So this next few seconds is all pressure on this turn for France. Oh, Jimmy lets him off. Jimmy turns with him. I think Jimmy's setting something up for later in the leg here. He's hoping to keep that advantage of being to the right and set the French up, or he thought the French were comfortably ahead. Bon gauche ici. Now, I don't know a lot of French, but that means the wind has turned to the left. And you can see that showing as the wind has shifted to the left. It's really shifting direction. If you get on the right shift, you can be sailing nearly straight up the ladder line, and you just progress to that next gate quicker. And that's what we can see the French doing here. They're really reading the wind shifts well and minimizing the distance they have to sail.
There you see the speeds. The French, no stranger to speeds. They have the record at 99.9. And they did that down in Saint-Tropez. The Americans sitting in 2nd place. This is race number 2. This is leg 5 of 7. They'll go through the next gate, then head downwind, and then it'll be the sprint to the finish line. And a perfect match there from Spithill.
That's a great turn by both boats, to be fair there, Todd. And we can see the French look well lined up. Looks like Spithill's going to follow. Spithill's relying on mistakes from the French. Big wind at the top here, 44 kilometers an hour. Pressure's on this maneuver here. They're going to turn away from the wind. They go through the danger zone.
Boundary penalty, Denmark.
Back in the fleet in 6th. Denmark suffers a penalty going out of bounds. There we go. Look at the acceleration out of that turn.
Pressure on the flight controller, Hans Henken there, the razor focus on the left-hand side of our screen. He's chasing down the French, but it is going to take a mistake from the French for the US. Wow, it's going to get so tight here. That boat's on the racetrack. They've got to get out of there. It's just dangerous.
That's Elisa Darman's point. Spectators love it. The sailors probably hate it. That's like sitting in the front row of a Lakers game.
Well, all right. Yeah.
Right in the mix.
Or a pitch invader, potentially, at that point. They were inside the boundary there, Todd, so really tight. Potentially 2 more turns for the French. They need to execute them well. There they go. Here we come. USA going faster. 2 more for the USA as well.
Are you surprised the Americans are following them?
I thought the Americans might have gone a little bit past to try and dive inside last minute, but it's a lot of manoeuvres to get in very late, and De La Pierre, he's not making many mistakes today.
We've seen big improvements from this team over the past couple of events, especially surrounding their manoeuvres. They're one of the most consistent with the quickest rate of turn out of all of the teams, which is critical in getting the boat up to speed as quickly as possible.
And talk about speed, it is all about speed. Look at this, France absolutely flying through the course, and they are going to take it to the finish, make it 2 for 2 for Quentin Delapierre and France. Jimmy Spithill tucks in behind, he'll grab a second. So the same results in race 2 that we saw in race number 1, and the French and the Americans are loving life in Sydney.
Good effort as we look at the score.
France, USA, New Zealand, Australia, top 4.
Spain dives inside there. Australia have made it across the finish line with Spain coming through fast.
Look at this. Look how tight this is. Emirates GBR just trying to tuck in behind Spain, and they're going to run out of real estate, and it'll be Spain that'll hold on just ahead of Ben Ainsley and the Brits.
Wow, that was so tight. And Canada, the big losers in there, Todd. Canada, Switzerland and Denmark have all really dropped back. Disaster for Denmark, a 9th. They were right, or they still are, right in the hunt to get to the grand final, and they can't afford results like this as Canada. They're limping across the finish line here.
Oh,
can they hold off
Spain
ahead of the Swiss?
Look at Switzerland. This is going to be a crawl to the finish.
Oh, my word. And Denmark could steal a few on the line. Oh, my word. They all just got so loose around that mark. The wind's really shifting, Todd. You can see it's windy out there.
Yep.
That water looks so dark. It's a big day on Sydney Harbour.
Wow, what a race. If you thought race number 1 was good, race number 2 almost better. And the top speed, the Swiss coming in at 96.4 kilometers an hour. Not a record for SailGP. The French hold that, but that is extremely fast as everyone comes home. And now the debrief is on.
Well, yeah, some debrief, and there's, you know, a great bit of work by the French. And I think, you know, when you think of the key moment that happened out there in that race, well, the French, they led at Mark 1, but it was this hecticness into the boundary. Look how tight that boundary is after Mark 1. It's really tight action, and the French just managed to nail down quite a smooth maneuver after a good jibe. And from here, they were well set up for gate 2, and they got to ease the boat away. But Jimmy Spithill, well, he wasn't going anywhere, and again, in a tight situation, Quentin Delapierre, he's new to the fleet relatively, first full season with the French, happy to take on Jimmy Spithill in a match race, aggressive stuff at nearly 90 kilometers an hour. So, you know, they are absolutely on the edge here, and Delapierre not giving anyone an inch.
Wow, what a showing in race number 2, showing that race number 1 was no fluke as France gets it done for the 2nd time in a row. France gets the win. United States finishing in 2nd. New Zealand rebounds into 3rd. Australia finishing in 4th. And it's Spain's Emirates GBR, Canada, Denmark, and Switzerland. One more race to go. Grab yourself a little bubbly, a little bit of nutrition, and we have got one more big race before we put a wrap on day number 1 at the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney here in the most beautiful part of Australia.
Go, go, go. Turn.
SailGP's documentary series Racing on the Edge gives us an insight into the Berlin-Slingsby rivalry that has reached boiling point this season. This is the moment that kicked it off, a 90-kilometer-an-hour sprint to the finish in Saint-Tropez.
Last leg of the race, New Zealand's coming fast from behind. Pressure's on the leaders, Australia. The Kiwis have the right of way. They're speeding up. This is a drag race to the finish.
Watch out, the Kiwis are heading towards the Aussies.
Kiwis, mate. Coming up.
Australia, they've got to keep clear of New Zealand. Oh, oh, he's crashed down, New Zealand. What a move from Burling.
That's the process. Hey, Craig, you can't have boats able to luff on the reach doing over 50 knots with 0 time to react. What New Zealand did there is going to break boats, kill people. ridiculous.
That's no penalty. Australia, no penalty for me. No penalty New Zealand.
Mate, you just pour away into us. Pour away into you, mate. What are you talking about? We're aiming straight at the windward end, and you luffed it. Okay, let's get some composure, you guys. We have damage and may not be our, Craig, and we're blaming it on New Zealand. It's ridiculous. Pete trying to kill people for a 1 point. We would have happily let him beat us.
We're fully within our rights of what we were doing. You know, I think as skippers we might need to pitch in for some anger management lessons for Tom. I think it's a bit out of line, the amount of swear words he was saying over the race management channel after the incident.
Was Peter Burley in the wrong pushing the issue? He didn't need to do it, was it?
He did.
Little extra dig. Little extra dig.
He did need to, because otherwise Tom said, "Oh, we'll be." When's Tom ever backed off and been second?
If Tom had been in that position, he'd done exactly the same.
Does Tom get as upset if that's a Nikolai Sehested?
That's a bigger question. Has Pete got under his skin a little bit?
Today, the Inspire Youth program came down to our base, and Jace and I were able to show them around the boat, ask any questions about what it's like to sail on the F50s, and any foiling questions they really had.
3 years ago, Tosh was part of the Inspire program in Sydney. She's now racing on board an F50 with one of the best teams.
A lot of sailors come from non-foiling backgrounds and haven't actually had the opportunity to try it before, and it's a really cool experience, and it gives you a really cool perspective on what it could be like.
She's been with us now for nearly a year, and she's a real talent, so watch for her in the future.
Racing around and getting to watch these boats close up is something that definitely inspired me more, so I'm really grateful that I had that opportunity.
Two races down, one more still to go here at the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix Sydney. It is France out in front on 20 points. United States' Jimmy Spittle sitting in second with 18, and Australia's Tom Slingsby holding third at 15. Peter Burling on the outside with Ben Ainsley and Canada in sixth, and then it's Denmark, Spain, and Switzerland. And remember, after the fifth race, two more races tomorrow, only the top three teams will be in that big final. What a beautiful day here at Sydney Harbour. The wind is up and the racing is intense. We've got one more race before we put a wrap on Saturday, and then all eyes will be on Championship Sunday. And right now it looks like Championship Sunday may involve France. Quentin Delapierre as we go on board. Quentin, well done. Those first two races, crazy hectic out there. How are you guys handling the change in the weather and what you saw yesterday in practice?
I think we try to push hard in those tricky conditions, and it's quite rough, to be honest. Like there is a storm just on the mainland side, and yeah, I think try to keep the boat in a safe position and try to get the right start, and for now it works.
And what's your priorities then, Quentin? Is it still important to be really aggressive at the start?
Yeah, I think most of the race is on the starts today, and if you can reach the pin end, I think 90% of the race is done. So that's why we are aiming for, and we did well in the first two races, and we'll see in the third one.
Quentin, merci and bonne chance.
Got a bit of ice on his hand there, Todd. That's potentially a worry for Quentin. Must have bumped that, but it sounded pretty calm out there.
Back on board, Quentin Delapierre in France with 2 wins in a row. So France looking very good and looking to this third race as we check in down on the water as the wind continues to kick up. Here's Lisa Darmanin.
It's getting windy out here. I know you guys have said that a few times, but also what's happening is the storm is moving away, which means that the wind is consistently windier now. I don't think it's as gusty as we saw in race number 2, so hopefully that makes it a little bit easier for the sailors. I tell you what, they are the best sailors in the world, but they're not making it look easy at all today. It's gusting up to 50 kilometers per hour now. So we are seeing, you know, those reminiscence of Saint-Tropez, and the French team are certainly relishing in it. I think it's a bit of a different game here, and I think it's all in the start. One good thing for the sailors, though, is the SailGP marshals have moved a couple of spectator boats, some of those super yachts out of the way, so hopefully that jibe after Mark 1 isn't so hectic this time, but I think it's great spectating from down here on the water, and I'm sure it is in the commentary booth too.
Oh, it's outstanding. I'm with Lisa, though. Moving those super yachts out of the way, Stevie's got to be job number one.
Yeah, I mean, the boundary's coming quick enough without the boundary being moved closer to you by a rogue spectator boat, that's for sure.
All right, let's talk about this. We've got 3.5 minutes to go before the start of race number 3, the third and final race. Emily, if you're France, and we saw Quentin Delapierre icing up that wrist there, do you stay aggressive, or do you kind of say, guys, let's take those 2 wins and let's stay in the top 5 and let's not push it too hard?
These are the best sailors in the world, Todd. They've got to keep pushing it right to the end. And, you know, there's still 2 more races to go tomorrow before the final. So I would take every win that you can get out there.
Same question to you, Stevie. I look at Jimmy Spittle in the USA, and they still have hopes of making it to that top 3 in San Francisco. But I'll tell you what, Jimmy Spittle has been sailing so well today here in Sydney, really his home waters.
I think Jimmy Spittle needed to turn up. He needs to win this event for me to have any hope of getting to San Francisco. And let's be fair to him, he has shown up. It's an incredible performance. He said in the interview that Lucy Copeland at the back there, strategist, got on board and said, I'm going to help you start winning races again. Well, she's not done that yet, but 2 seconds I think he'll take.
And there you see the conditions. They have changed drastically over the course of the last hour. Genesis Island, which seemed like the place to be now, and the threatening, looks like rain coming in, big wind, we got squalls. It's going to be a mess for them, but for us and the sailors, this is going to be fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's great conditions for sailing, and I mean, they're probably wet enough anyway on board these F50s, so a little bit of rain's not going to be any issue for them. And as Lisa said, if the wind's steadied down a bit, makes it a little bit easier there. We can see Carl Langford, wing trimmer, back on board Australia, and, you know, he's a very, very experienced wing trimmer, but I think for him, he's got to lock the boat in, he's got to try and gel the crew. He's really the focal point of communication through the boat. He's the voice from Tom Slingsby to the rest of the crew as to what wants to happen on the boat. And well, they made a good comeback in that race, but I think the Australians will be wanting one more good race before they get home.
The Australians finishing race number 1 in 3rd place. And of course, they had a great run in race number 2, then had their issues towards the end. They finished in 4th, so they've got a 3 and a 4. Would love to pick up a 1. They are the defending champions of this event and the 2-time reigning and defending champions of SailGP. Let's go on board New Zealand. Peter Burling have not had the best showing. Race number 1, they had their mechanical problems. They finished in 9th place. They bounced back nicely, Stevie, in race number 2 with a 3rd.
Yeah, and this is a different boat. It's not their normal boat. That's back in the shed getting fixed. And, well, with 1 minute to go to the start, we can see they're late in here. But hopefully they've got their game face back on. A 3rd was important, but I think they're going to want another top 3 before the end of the day.
Emily, give me a boat to watch here in the 3rd and final race of the day.
I think all eyes are going to be on France and USA again. They've had a really strong start to the day, and I think with this building breeze, that should continue, or at least I'd hope so, because that was brilliant racing to watch.
Really interesting here, Todd. 35 seconds to go. A lot of boats off the foils, and right now the wind looks quite light in under this headland, so it could be tricky to get back on the foils. We can see the darker patches of water at the bottom of our stream. Switzerland, they look like they're going to be really, really late here. Same for Spain, same for Denmark. Can Emirates GB find this gust of wind right in front of them? Look at that dark patch of water. When they hit that, they'll pop on the foils, but they're definitely late. 10 seconds to go. A lot of the boats out the back, France, Canada and Australia, well, they're foiling and they're going to be in good shape just in time for Emirates GB. But how's your timing, Phil Robertson? 3 seconds to go. Perfect from Phil Robertson. A big change in the wind there, Todd. No one reacted quick enough other than the Canadians. But Delapierre, he's right in the mix again, and it's going to be more of a boat speed race.
The calm voice of Phil Robertson in Canada SailGP out in front. They take the big gust and they're around mark number 1 at more than 80 kilometers an hour. And look at the Aussies checking in at almost 90.
See that boundary, look, it's right there. It's only a few seconds away. It's really, really close down to gate 2. But a nice lead for the Canadians. They should be able to be smooth
this is the
here.
umpires. Boundary penalty, Canada.
Oh!
Unbelievable.
Right off the bat.
Oh, I'm surprised that was a boundary penalty. Unforced error by Phil. He's not going to be happy. Got to lose 20 metres here relative to the French.
So that'll hand
the umpires. Boundary penalty, New Zealand. Boundary penalty, New Zealand.
And the Kiwis were right behind the Americans in 6th place, so the Americans will get a little more distance there. And here we go into gate number 2.
And look, the Canadians, they've got that boundary penalty. They sailed too much distance, opened the door for De La Pierre, and on the form he's on today, he's going to take it. The French are a little loose round there, but they're still out in front. Canadians stop in front of the Australians. Hard manoeuvre, the Aussies trying to get it back under control. Whoa, big water over the deck. That was the Canadians so slow in front of them, and that opens an opportunity for Emirates GBR, as we can see everyone getting really loose around gate 2.
So the lead that Canada and France had is now squandered as the rest of the field comes into view, and it's all tight racing quarters here in the 3rd and final race.
Another good manoeuvre by the French there. We're seeing out there it's really difficult to manoeuvre, especially those roundups at the gate. So it's about keeping that boat under control, because it's so costly when you're going from 80 kilometers an hour to virtually 20. At the moment there, you can see Canada have really struggled with that fly time, 87% up on the foils. That's from some of their big crashes down there. Maneuvers are where they do seem to struggle a bit more than the other teams.
Going straight does not seem to be a problem for either of them, Stevie. It was the maneuvers. So is that attributed to the weather, and did a big gust hit them?
Yeah, I think it's all often, you know, the gust is the changing environment. It's just quite windy. Certainly at that bottom gate, they're struggling to control these small wings here. They don't work quite as easily with the crews. And as we can see across there, it's an absolute strength test here of boat speed, and the Canadians are forcing the French to manoeuvre away first. Go. It's the voice of Chris Draper there. He says a lull on the bows. There's obviously some lighter patches in the wind. A wind shift towards the left will help Canada here, but how well can they all execute the manoeuvre? Canada have executed it pretty well, but that board's still in the water. It's taken a while to come up. Gain for Canada, lead change here, and that's all on the wind shift. The wind has rotated from the right to the left. Canada to the left of France. Advantage Canada.
So for more on the conditions, we go to our version of the Wind Whisper. Down on the water, here's Lisa Darmanin.
Well, it's changing every lap out here, Todd, so the teams are definitely having to adapt. The reason it's so tricky is because the difference between when it's windy and not so windy is about 20 kilometers per hour. So they're having to change how they're using the power. It's also the angle, so that's changing everything as well. It is really hard out here. It's definitely windier at towards the harbour bridge, and it's gustier up to the top where they're heading right now to this gate.
Well, aggressive manoeuvre by Canada, but it's opened the door for France. De La Pierre through it. Canada must keep clear of the French in this situation, and a slight mistake by Phil Robertson there. Opened the door for De La Pierre. He's jumped right through it, as we can see Slingsby and Ainsley on board Australia and Emirates Great Britain. They're back in the game as well, as Contant De La Pierre, we've said this before, leads at gate 3.
And something going on with the Americans, as they were sitting in 5th place. They have now dropped back to 7th. Emirates GBR has the right of way as they come in. They will pick up 3rd place ahead of the defending champions Australia, who will slide back to 4th.
When we think of the season as a whole, Todd, the French needed a big result, GBR needed a big result, and New Zealand, we thought they were comfy, but if they're getting another 6th and they find themselves in the pack at this event, they could be right back in the fight with Emirates GBR and the French for that place in the podium race in San Francisco.
This is the umpires. Penalty Canada, relative France. Windward boat not keeping clear.
2nd penalty to Canada in 3 legs. Craig Mitchell, the chief umpire, with a busy day here on this 3rd and final race.
These are some really costly mistakes that the Canadians are making, because they're actually sailing really well. Their average speed is about 52 kilometers an hour, but they're sailing significantly less distance than the other teams, suggesting that they're on the right side of a lot of these shifts. While GBR typically are sailing quite fast, but a lot more distant, so sailing for pressure rather than the right wind shift.
Well, there you go, still not struggling to scrub that penalty there, and that's going to open the door for France and also Emirates Great Britain. They're coming back fast. Expect them to be right in the mix when we get down to gate 4. It's advantage France at the moment, but it's going to be really tight as we approach gate 4.
How about some props to Denmark? Nikolai Sehested, their speeds, they were approaching 90 kilometers an hour just a moment ago. And this is a tight race, the third and final race, and here we go. It's going to get a little fruity.
Great Britain have the right of way here, Todd. France have got to judge this. It's so tight across. I think he's clear ahead. Wow, both boats scrape across in front of Great Britain. That was so tight. There's going to be a protest. Oh, Ainsley, he's going to get really slow here. I'm surprised they've gone for that move. Does get himself some space, though, but he's lost a lot of distance doing it.
So one hole into the water as Emirates GBR slows way down. Look at their speeds.
He fell off the foil, Todd. They needed to really do an earlier turn in front of the French and head towards the left turn. And they've lost a lot of speed, as have Australia. New Zealand, well, they need a big result here. They could do with overtaking at least 2 boats on this upwind leg to put themselves in with a hunt at the final tomorrow. But out in front, well, France look pretty good, although it is lighter winds where they are right now versus Great Britain. So it's going to be interesting how this plays out on the leg.
Like 5 of 7, they'll head to the top of the course, they'll come back down, and then the sprint to the finish. It is France, Canada, and Great Britain, and it is the French who have won the first 2 races right now that seem to have found a home here in Sydney Harbour.
Good comeback by the British. They've got the boat going, but you can see the wind has rotated to the right, so that the French are sailing up the ladder board, and they were to the right of Great Britain. Now, my worry would be, if it's gone right, the next move's probably going to be for it to go left. So where Great Britain heading, I don't think that's good news for them. It should be good news for France and Canada, but it's a match race. Look at these two. France and Canada absolutely locked horns, identical turns.
So who does it cleaner?
Well, probably advantage France if we're judging the manoeuvres there. 2 pretty good manoeuvres, and the French have stretched, but that slight loss has given Emirates GBR a chance to get back in the game. Still behind here, but Ainsley, he's on the hunt as we approach this final gate leg. 5 of 6, not a lot of time left on.
Wind speed on course right around 37 kilometers an hour. It is France, Canada, Great Britain, Denmark, the USA top 5.
This is good action. There's so many manoeuvres having to go in. This is testing the crew work, testing the fitness of those big grinders at the front of the boat there. As we see in the background, USA has to dive behind Peter Burling on New Zealand. Oh, it's really tight, but Australia, they've dropped to 7th here, Todd. This is all happening, and all that means is good news for France, good news for Canada.
Canada briefly off the foils there. That's going to cost them. That might put Emirates GBR across them here on this cross now.
Right of way with Canada. Emirates must be confident they're clear ahead here. He is clear ahead, but I'm surprised he hasn't turned the boat yet. To me, he sailed a little bit wide. That could open the door for Canada to get up through this gate ahead of them. It's going to be tight on the way down. France, though, look at that, opening the gap, nearly 200 metres ahead. Could be 3 from 3 here, Todd.
Quentin Delapierre makes the turn around gate number 5 on this 3rd and final race. The winners of the first 2, and more importantly, in the overall through 8 events, France is 1 point back of 3rd place Emirates GBR. So a win here in Australia would be huge for them.
Canada miss it. They don't make it to the gate. It's going to be a big loss for the Canadians. Big mistake misjudging that ley line. Emirates GBR round the outside. Rockwell Denmark round the outside. And this will open the door for the New Zealand crew to come charging back at Canada as well. They're still off the foils. Here comes New Zealand. Oh, big mistake, Todd. Look at the distance lost.
Look at that. From 2nd to 5th on the last leg, the penultimate leg, I should say. And look at the lead now as France and Quentin Delapierre seems to be at home here in the Sydney Harbour despite the changing conditions, despite the shifts. It is Quentin Delapierre that has been the most consistent sailor throughout the day, winning race 1, winning race 2, and on his way to winning a 3rd consecutive race.
Great manoeuvres there for the French. They had to do 2 quick turns, as did Emirates Great Britain, and that they've managed to pull that off. This is a good final race for Emirates, as Denmark, well, they seem to just keep themselves in the hunt, the Danish. They're looking like they could get a good position here.
And the win will indeed go to the French as they make it 3 for 3 in Sydney.
What a day for the French. That's got to be their best ever day.
2nd place, Emirates, Great Britain. They'll grab that, and they need those points after a disappointing first race where they finished at 6th and a 6th in 2nd race as well.
Some redemption here for the Danish team, taking a 3rd as well.
Nice bounce back for the Aussies.
Yeah, good comeback there by the New Zealand boat as well. They're going to cross the line in 4th here as we come in, and Jimmy Spithill, well, I think he'll probably be happy with a 5th. Good day for the US team there, and it's going to be tight on this leaderboard though as we go in tomorrow. Tight for everyone other than the French. Quentin de la Pierre, well, he's had a real day for it. Good solid day for the USA. Australia, well, he's going to want to get his boat checked because that Australian boat's not working as they're used to it working.
Yeah, 3, 4, and a 6 for the Aussies. They are the defending champions of this event from last year. Not the first day they were looking for. We know the magic that Tom Slingsby and his crew could turn on the final day, Championship Sunday. And here's Canada. They were sitting, we're talking 10 minutes ago, they were sitting in 2nd place, threatening for 1st.
Yeah, look at the angle they're sailing from that last mark there, Todd. Something's gone seriously wrong with that Canadian boat in the last bit. I don't know if there's a system issue or what it is, or they got rattled. Bit of apology from Phil Robertson there. Yeah, they just got a bit out of shape.
Not before they notched the top speed of 94.2 kilometers an hour. The Swiss come through, finishing in 8th, and it'll be Spain bringing up the rear.
Bit of a maneuver there, but the Spanish have had a pretty good first day for Diego, to be fair. That's a big first day on the tools for him at the back, and I think they've performed pretty well. I mean, a disappointing last race, no doubt, but it's a rebuild. They've already said it's rebuild for season 4. And yeah, this is the definition of a baptism of fire.
We have to remember that while he does come from a high-performance background, Diego, he sailed 49ers, he sails a Moth. This is quite a big step up to go from even a Moth to 90 kilometers an hour reach into a finish.
So day 1 of the Diego Botín administration comes to an end, and not the day they were looking for. An 8th for Spain, a top 5 in race number 2, and they finish in 9th in race number 3. So everyone home safely, and now it's time to digest what we just saw.
Going back to the start, it really was pretty separated among the fleet. What to look out for here is the patches of wind. It's hard to see on the screen, but these dark patches circled show the gusts of wind, which were up to 30 knots, 55 kilometers an hour of breeze. Now, the Canadians, Aussies, and French managed to get into those gusts with 10 seconds to go, which was enough time to build their speed and accelerate exactly to the optimum point in the line. The Canadians there crossed with 3.3 seconds of extra room, while the other teams 51 seconds behind.
Well, yeah, and look at that, a key moment. Well, for the French, seems to be a day of key moments on board that French boat. They just stretched out ahead at the front of the fleet. And for the Canadians, the key moment, look, they're not quite making it up to that gate mark. Another few meters, and they would have got round smoothly, but they were 2nd at that point, and just 2 minutes later, they were 7th. And that's the accuracy of just knowing where that gate is, and it's a key moment for Canada, but unfortunately it's a disappointing one. Rockwool, Denmark, well, they've done a nice job of chipping away through the day. Probably not their best day, but they got a good finish in the last race, and they'll be looking to improve tomorrow.
Well, the French were the most consistent, winning all 3 races, but the Americans had a great day, especially the first 2 races where they go 2-2, salvaging race number 3 with a top 5 finish as we go on board Jimmy Spithill. Jimmy, I know you're from these parts, but wow, what a hectic day out there. Have you ever seen it change like this from what you had in practice yesterday?
Yeah, it was a lot different than practice, Todd. I mean, I think with this southerly change, you can see the clouds coming over the top, and it happened a lot earlier than we're expecting for forecast, so that really played havoc with the wind.
And Jimmy, was everything, it looked pretty hectic for a lot of the crews. You had 2 great races at the beginning of the day. Do you think everyone it's been a long time since we've had any wind? Was that just a lack of practice for the crews?
Yeah, I think the conditions were, I mean, it's not so much the wind speed, but it's when it's very, very gusty and very, very shifty. You know, the gusts were like bullets hitting. And, you know, downwind when you're going head-to-head with other boats, it's just, yeah, it's full on.
It certainly looked pretty full on out there, Jimmy, but good day for you today. But how important's tomorrow in the grand scheme of this season for the US team?
It's really important. You know, we have no choice but to really get a good event this time, and you know, training's been going good. We've done a lot of work after the last event for belief in the team, and so yeah, we've just got to take it one race at a time. But we've definitely got the hammer down, and yeah, we're full throttle into tomorrow.
All right, Jimmy, appreciate your time. Best of luck to you and the crew on Championship Sunday. Remember, the Americans did finish second in this event last year, so if they can get in the top 3 into that final race, that would be huge for them. Well, a lot of numbers to digest, Emily. Have at it.
Well, let's look at the top 3 teams. They all averaged 94% of fly time throughout the race, which is higher than the rest of the teams as well. But if I draw your eye to the foil stability, that shows the top 3 teams were all at 86% stability. So the flight controllers were a lot more locked in than kind of those bottom 3 teams that are below 80%. Notably, though, the French had an average heel of -0.85. That means they were sailing with a bit of windward heel, which is really stable in these conditions and really gets the foils, particularly the rudders, working.
Yeah, I know that's going to be a lot of debriefing going on. Remember, in SailGP, all the teams share their data, so everyone's going to be looking at those same numbers as we take a look at our scoreboard. And Stevie, you want to be consistent, but man, France set a new level, 1-1-1. That's how you get into the final.
Yeah, that's a really good day, and then we can see below that for Australia, Emirates GBR, Denmark and New Zealand, well, it's tight. They're all struggling around that middle of the fleet, and whoever can pull out 2 good races tomorrow can find their way into that final 3. So yeah, really encouraging for France and USA, but all to play for tomorrow. It's going to be a big day.
Emily, you know I love putting you on the spot, so how about this? Who is your boat to watch tomorrow?
My boat to watch has to be the French team. I mean, they won 3 out of 3 races. We saw them with a really stable platform a lot of the time. Okay, yeah, there were a couple of touchdowns here and there, but that happened for everyone. They typically recovered really well and were able to push the boat absolutely to the limit. And the lead by which they were winning, that was so impressive.
All right, Stevie, as we get ready to say goodbye on day number 1 here, what are your takeaways and what are you anticipating tomorrow?
Well, I think Sydney's one of the great places for sailing, and I'd just say it's delivered again. What a spectacular day's racing for the fans. Great to see so many people out there watching, and well, that's my takeaway. It's just how good is sailing when the conditions are like this, and Sydney's delivered again.
So nice to see the wind up, Mother Nature delivering, and we get to show the fans what these F50s can do. Emily, same thing to you. What do you anticipate tomorrow? I know there's some desperate teams out there in search of points.
I think tomorrow's going to be really interesting. We've got a slightly different wind direction, which could mean that Genesis Island could play a part in the course, which will make it a very tactical day.
Well, one thing for certain, the fans will be back in force again tomorrow. It's Championship Sunday. We'll have 2 fleet races, and then only the top 3 will race out on the water. And whoever emerges from that race as the winner will take home the title of champion of KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix here in Sydney. And then it is on to the next event, which comes up in March. That's New Zealand Grand Prix in Christchurch. And then the big turn to San Francisco and that $1 million race. So everyone, take a deep breath, enjoy the rest of your day, and once again, congratulations, as the French have set a new standard for consistency in SailGP. The French go 1-1-1, and they will certainly be the team to watch tomorrow. So on behalf of Lisa Darmanin, Emily Nagel, Stevie Morrison, I'm Todd Harris saying so long from now from the beautiful Sydney Harbour in the KPMG Australia Sail Grand Prix.
I will not jump in these vices they throw at me. Talking to God and there's so much he's showing me. So I'm on my grind like I'm supposed to be. And I do not care if you notice me.
Wow, how's your timing? Oh my lord, the boat jumps out of the water!
Fontaine de la Pierre pulls a rabbit out of his hat.
Well, the match race master given a bit of a lesson from de la Pierre.
The win will indeed go to the French.